DW Africa Link.
Today, the United States is also signing our own bilateral agreements with the Congo and Rwanda that will unlock new opportunities for the United States to access critical minerals and provide economic benefits for everybody. And we'll be involved. We're sending some of our biggest and greatest companies over to the two countries, and we're going to take out some of the rare earth and take out some of the assets and pay, and everybody's going to make a lot of money.
Peace deal or business deal? Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have just signed a high-profile U.S. brokered agreement in Washington under Donald Trump. The deal includes specific provisions such as ceasefire commitments, disarmament processes, and monitoring mechanisms. But here's the catch. The deal also gives the U.S. preferential access to critical minerals. So will this lead to lasting peace, or is it strategic for economic interests? That's what's coming up. I am Eddie Micah Jr., and this is Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
The reality on the ground is grim. Even as leaders signed the agreement, clashes broke out between Rwanda-backed M23 rebels and Congo's army in eastern DRC, a region with a long history of conflict rooted in colonial legacies, resource competition, and ethnic tensions. Civilians are on the move again, fleeing toward Rwanda and other neighboring countries. Many observers say this deal looks less like a peace plan and more like a political business arrangement, one that secures U.S. supply chains but leaves the roots of the conflict and accountability gaps untouched. For more, I'm joined by lawyer and political analyst Jean-Baptiste Gassominari and our correspondent Alex Ngarambe in Kigali, Rwanda. Jean-Baptiste, give us a sense of what's actually in this peace deal and how we got here.
There are so many things that are in the peace deal, but the most important that you find in this peace deal is the commitment of the government of DRC to dismantle the FDLR, which is, I may say, is the cause for the conflict between Rwanda and DRC. So on part of Rwanda, there is also a commitment of lifting all defensive measures that they have been put in place to counter the attacks or possible attacks by that group of FDLR, which is operational in DRC and very active. The rest is the respect of integrity of each of the countries signatories to the peace deal. There are also other clauses mentioning repatriation of refugees and internally displaced people. There is economic and business cooperation between the two countries. So there are so many clauses that are inserted in the Washington peace deal, which was, of course, signed on the 27th of June, 2025, by the ministers of foreign affairs of DRC and Rwanda, and witnessed by the foreign secretary for the United States of America, Secretary Rubio. Then the same has been now signed or approved by the heads of states, namely President Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, and President Tshisekedi Antoine Felix, President of DRC, and the same was witnessed by President Trump of the United States of America.
Right. Thank you very much for that. What's also sticking out in this deal is the fact that as part of the deal, the U.S. gains access to rich minerals inside the DRC. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, actually, how it started, President of DRC, President Felix Antoine Tshisekedi, solicited the United States officials, and he wanted the United States of America to give him security against critical minerals. So for him, actually, initially when he went to ask, he was expecting that America will come and join its war because he had faith in solving the problem using military means. And in exchange that he was going also to give to America critical access to America to critical minerals that DRC or Democratic Republic of Congo has. So it ended not being the way he wanted it to be, because he was advised that he needs to negotiate with the people that he's fighting with, and that a political solution was better than a military solution. So by negotiating and after signing, the three countries actually each had gains. The America will have access to these critical minerals. DRC and Rwanda will also have to work together. By DRC will be extracting those minerals, sending them to Rwanda for processing. Then from Rwanda, they will be sent to America. And this will be done, of course, by companies that are specialized in trading those minerals and those rare earths that is in discussion. So what America gains is the access to the minerals, because it is agreed by both parties.
I'm just wondering, how does this all form part of a peace deal? Will there be peace in this deal without the U.S. having access to the critical minerals from DRC?
Yeah, I think it's yes, because what was negotiated actually was peace first. So once the peace is there, once the fighting are over, then it will be an opportunity now to do business. And by doing those business, which I was explaining, America will have access to those minerals that will be extracted by the owner, who is DRC. And DRC, because it does not have factories to clean up those minerals and prepare them for export, not at its purest state, then Rwanda will be, because Rwanda has those factories, now Rwanda will come in and give this service, which is a paid service, of course. So, everyone will benefit from this deal. But this does not mean that the critical minerals that America needs is actually a condition of having the peace. No, this will be done once the peace is there, once they have now resorted to the business aspect of this deal.
Even on the day of finalizing the signing of the deal, fighting was continuing inside the DRC. As we're talking, fighting has been going on. So, I mean, what's going on?
Well, it's easier to understand. What's going on is, the fighting is ongoing, but the fighting that is ongoing is the fighting between government forces, Burundi forces, and Wazalendo, fighting AFC M23. So it has nothing to do with the agreement signed between Rwanda and DRC, because it's not Rwanda that is fighting DRC forces.
What is normally widely reported is that Rwanda has been backing the M23 rebel group in fighting DRC's forces and maybe other rebel groups. Who are those involved in the fighting, really?
Well, as we know, as per the information available, DRC forces and its allies are fighting AFC M23.
And who is backing the M23?
Well, that one, I think I may say, frankly speaking, that I don't know, because allegations remain allegations. When you do not have evidence to support your allegations, then you may end up even being a liar.
What you're saying is that the widely reported allegations of Rwanda backing the M23 rebels is just an allegation and there's no evidence or proof for that. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, actually, because I know to get accreditation in DRC, when you are a media house or any reporter, you need to add that AFC M23 backed by Rwanda. This is something that everybody knows. So it may be true or not true, because as I said, allegations remains allegation until you can prove that they are not allegations with evidence, with tangible evidence, which we do not have. And that's why I say I cannot conclude that way, because I'm not in a position to do so.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to come back to you in a bit. Alex, we've been listening a lot to Jean-Baptiste, very interesting, to some extent, even controversial points being made. I'm just wondering what people on the ground make of all of this. You are based in Kigali, Rwanda, and you also have an idea how this whole peace deal has been received inside the DRC. Can you share that with us? What are ordinary people on the ground saying about the deal?
People in Rwanda, how they have received the signing of this peace accord in Washington is basically not different from what the local Rwandans have been saying about this whole conflict ever since it started. Of course, maybe this time they are optimistic, maybe because signing it right in the Oval Office with the US president, maybe they think it could make some significant difference compared to the previous attempts to sign peace deals, especially in DRC, Eastern DRC. Yeah, so they hope that it can get better. They hope it can get better for especially the people in Congo, because these are the people who are affected directly in DRC, Eastern DRC. They have been displaced. People are in refugee camps, many of them here in Rwanda, So the optimism and the hope, it is really being exhibited in refugee camps, because these people have suffered for the last 25 years. They have lived in refugee camps for a long time. And they would want to go back home, Refugee camp is not easy, and so many supplies have been cut off, medication, food relief, education materials, a lot really has been cut off, and is taking a toll on these refugees. So they can only hope and be optimistic that this time round, tangible results come out of this signing. But the local Rwandans themselves, they are indifferent, because we can say they are not directly affected, just like Congolese. Because to be honest, Rwanda from border to border is secure. People are going on about their businesses. They can only struggle for survival, finances, like everyone else. But maybe you can talk about the border communities that used to do trade, cross-border trade with DRC, and it was huge trade really between Goma and Rubavu. It's one of the busiest cross-border areas or cross-border activities in Africa.
Tell us more about what's happening on the ground still and how they are still optimistic with fighting going on.
The signing of the US peace deal was received with mixed reaction, basically. Some are optimistic, others are skeptic. Skeptic in a sense that for the last 25 years, since the conflict in Eastern DRC started, there have been so many peace deals signed to try and bring peace in that region. There have been so many security efforts put in place to try and see that this region can have peace. There are missions like MONUSCO that has been there for so many years, but still peace has failed to be realized in this region. So you cannot say that they are fully optimistic that this time it is going to work, but again, they are still skeptic, because if you could see even the body language in the US, experts can tell you that maybe there was some lack of good faith in it, because people still think there was no handshake between the two presidents, and that speaks volumes if indeed there was no handshake. So the body language was cold. Even when they were in the same room, you could see that the tension still remains.
My point exactly is what you've echoed now, that people were talking about the tensions still between the two leaders, but tensions also on the ground, as we're saying, fighting is continuing. So what do people make of the fact that after signing this deal, tensions between the leaders and fighting still happening on the ground? How do people feel about that?
They are generally confused. They really don't know, because they were expecting that after this signing, because it was supposed to talk about ceasing fire, DRC taking control of the lost territories. And this has not happened, and we don't know when it is going to happen. And as we speak today, the fighting is still heavy, really, especially in southern Kivu, around the Uvira and the Kamanyola. Of the signing, and a few days before the signing, fighting was very, very heavy in southern Bukavu, in southern Kivu, and people are lost. They don't know what is going on. They don't know if this peace deal was really honest and genuine, or it was just a show, because people are still crossing into Rwanda, fleeing from the fighting, the heavy fighting, you know.
And I asked Jean-Baptiste about, he calls it allegations that the M23 rebels are backed by Rwanda's government. I mean, you are inside Rwanda. What do they see as their government's involvement in the conflict in Eastern DRC?
Regarding whether the government is supporting M23, Rwandans, they have tended to really side with the government, because the government has vehemently denied ever since day one. They have vehemently denied that they are not backing M23 in any way. They are not giving them any equipment, military equipment. They have vehemently denied, but these allegations of Rwanda backing M23, they are not dying away. They are still persistent, especially from the international community, from embassies abroad and governments abroad. So it is a ping pong between the government of Rwanda and the international community that accuses Rwanda of supporting M23. But people on the ground, they tend to go with the narrative the government of Rwanda is putting out there, that Rwanda has nothing to do with that war, and the debate centers around that locally.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that. Jean-Baptiste, I'm going to come back to you, focusing on the strength of this deal, right? Because this is not the first time these sides are signing a peace deal, right? So what could make it work this time, or what could make this just a signing on paper?
AFC M23 is fighting the government forces and their allies on the ground. The Washington Peace Accord mentions in its text that Doha Agreement will be part of it. And we all know that Doha Agreement will be made by AFC M23 and the government of DRC. And we know that these negotiations at Doha are not progressing. Out of 8 protocols that have been agreed upon in Doha, only 2 have been covered, and one of them is the cessation of hostilities among the warring parties. This has been signed 3 months ago, and nobody knows why the signatories to this protocol are not implementing or respecting what is in that protocol. From my perspective and my humble point of view, I think all the ball is on the hands or on the ground of the government of DRC, because it is the one negotiating with AFC M23, and it is the one that is not implementing what it is signing.
I just want to find out, Alex, based on your interactions with people on the ground and with experts also, what is needed now to follow through with a deal to make sure that this time peace, real peace, comes to Eastern DRC?
What is needed now, I think, for all the actors involved in this conflict, whether they agree and accept that they are involved, they have to come clean, they have to sit on the table honestly and discuss the root cause of this conflict that has lasted for a long, long time. Yes, this, like I said before, such attempts have been there. They have gone. They have not yielded any results. And who are getting affected after 25 years? It is not the government officials. It is not the diplomats. It is not the political class. It is the ordinary people who have been affected.
Those that are surviving are dealing with unbearable conditions, right? We're talking about tens of thousands, many more displaced as a result of the continuous fighting. And the billion-dollar question always remains, is this going to be the final deal that brings peace? And as you say, people are cautiously optimistic. As we're talking, fighting continues. So it's still very unclear how this deal would work out. But I'm going to give you the final words, Jean-Baptiste, if you can hear me this time. What needs to happen now to ensure that this deal holds?
I may say in a very few words, what is needed is just a political will to end this conflict. As I have said, Doha peace process is underway. And 2 of the 8 protocols that need to be discussed have already been completed and signed by both parties. And the 2 are the liberation of prisoners and the ending of hostilities. So if the government releases the prisoners, and if it respects the ceasefire that it has signed, I think it won't be a problem to end this conflict. But of course, it takes 2 to tango. M23 AFC also have a role to play in implementing what they have signed, because I believe when one attacks, the other retaliates, or the other way around. So to end the conflict, because there are 2 warring parties, they need to show strong commitments and strong political will to end this conflict and resort to dialogue, which they have started and which we all believe that can be achieved.
Right. So I do hope that this is the last time we're talking about ongoing conflict on the ground, even after peace deals being signed, because that is exactly what is making people less optimistic. But still, great interaction from the both of you. Jean-Baptiste Gassominari, lawyer and political analyst, also DW correspondent Alex Ngarambe in Kigali, Rwanda. Thank you both very much. The Congolese government, the United Nations, and independent experts all accuse Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels. UN investigations say the group takes orders from Kigali and receives military and intelligence support. The UN Security Council has even urged Rwanda to withdraw its forces from Congolese territory. Kigali denies everything, insisting it is only pursuing the FDLR, a Hutu militia linked to the 1994 genocide. These accusations highlight the complex geopolitical interests shaping the conflict and peace efforts in the region.
Actually, the sending of these accords named Washington, on one side, they should call it a wonderful step, but I'm reluctant to use that word because that I fear if the implementation will be done. Yeah, I'm reluctant because, first of all, even when you see President Tshisekedi, his reactions, he was not quite confident about the signing. It's like he has been forced. Some of the clauses like eradicating or neutralizing FDLR, which is part of FRDC, of their army, I think I'm still wondering if this will yield results.
The president of both countries doesn't shaking hands. That is a very bad sign of the peace, because as a citizen who is living in this region, it shows that there is no peace.
Eastern Congo is home to some of the world's richest deposits of cobalt, coltan, gold, copper, and lithium, minerals that power batteries, electronics, and defense technology. Washington wants easier access to these vital resources. Since the latest escalation in 2025, more than 7,000 people have been killed in eastern Congo, and the government says many of the victims are civilians. So will this deal bring real peace to the people living through the conflict? Share your thoughts with us on Facebook at DW Africa. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. And subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. And I am Eddie Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW. Made for minds.